Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ask the Lawyer. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com. So it's a fact of life that motorcycle riders have to deal with. If you're in an accident, your injuries are probably going to be more severe than if you were riding in an automobile, especially if that accident is with an automobile. With that in mind, it's even more important that you know exactly what to do after that accident. And that's why we're lucky to have my guest with us here today to answer our questions, Attorney Claude Wyle of the San Francisco-based law firm of Choulos Choulos Wyle. Claude, thank you for joining us again today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Rob.
So let's start at the very beginning. I'm in an accident. I'm riding my motorcycle. I'm in an accident. Give me the first couple of things I should do. What's the first thing I need to be doing?
I'm going to mix it up with what you should do and what you shouldn't do.
Perfect.
And I'm going to give you guys some advice, just as if you were sitting in my office, and I'm going to tell you what I would tell any client that called me or sat in my office. First thing, of course, a lawyer can't be there at the scene with you. So what you need to know is you need to be sure that you're gathering up as much evidence as you can. If you've suffered serious injuries, you're going to be whisked away by ambulance, and someone else is going to have to gather up that information. And that, frankly, is what a lawyer is for and what the lawyers' investigators are for. But things you can do even while you're there at the scene and awaiting an ambulance can prove to be critically important. So first thing you do is make sure the police are on their way.
Okay.
Many times in the city of Redding, for instance, in Northern California, they have 7 police officers for a huge geographical area, and they just don't come to collision sites. San Francisco, they don't come unless somebody's going to be taken away by ambulance. They just leave it alone. You want to make sure the police come to report the accident, and you want to insist if you can. You want to make sure somebody has called 911. And this is important because although police reports themselves are not admissible as evidence, the physical condition of the scene can be critical to your winning or losing your case. So that brings me right away to the police officer wants to take your statement. You're in pain, you're out of it. Maybe they've already hit you with some morphine. You don't want to give a statement. You know what? You don't have to.
Okay.
Don't let anybody force you into giving a statement. It's important that you can come back and give your statement later or send it into the police or have them come to your hospital room after you're feeling better. You don't need to give it all to the officer right then and there. You should have time to collect your thoughts. That being said, if you do speak to the officer, most people, in order to gain credibility, they feel like they've got to tell the officer a middle-of-the-road story, a fair story, giving both sides of the story. This is not the time. If you are being asked what happened in your collision, you cannot be confident that all of the witnesses are going to come forward. And guess what? You can't be confident that even though the other driver came up to you and said, "I'm so sorry, I didn't see you. I was speeding. Oh my God, I'm so sorry." You can't be confident they're going to tell the officer the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to make sure that the officer knows that you think this collision is not your fault. And I will fast forward you to 2 trials, one I lost and one I won, because at the scene, our clients made statements. At the scene of the one I lost, bicycle collision, run over by a bus, was the bus driver's fault. But my client, such a nice guy, didn't want to make the bus driver feel any worse. The bus driver was worried he's going to lose his job. So my client said to the bus driver, "Don't worry, man. It's not your fault." The police heard that. The police interviewed him. The police are also working for the same entity that owns the bus. My client gave a middle-of-the-road rendition of what happened in the collision, and it came back to haunt him later. And by the time we were done trying to deal with that, we lost the case. Go to another case, a motorcycle case. Our client gets cut off. She goes down. She breaks her hips. She's in pain. But when the motorcycle officer comes to talk to her about what happened, she said, "That guy cut me off. Look at the damage to his car. He cut me off. He made a lane change." Well, guess what? That gentleman admitted to making a lane change at the scene, but he changed his story later under oath. And the jurors after the trial told us that they really cared that she had been consistent and adamant that it was not her fault. So no wishy-washy statements. When you talk to the police, Tell him it was the other guy's fault. You don't need to be the other guy's advocate. You just need to be your own. Of course, you have to tell the truth, but tell your side of the story and be brief, succinct, only the facts that matter. And if you don't feel up to it, just beg off and don't tell anything.
What about if once you're taken to the hospital and say a doctor or a nurse or somebody says, tell me what happened, what happened? Is that anything you say there, can that be used for or against you? Or do you need to be careful what you say in the hospital too?
You really need to be careful what you say to doctors and nurses and the emergency people and also the ambulance personnel, because every insurance company is going to get the statement you made to the ambulance personnel. And for some reason, in order to assess how badly injured you are and the mechanism of injury, ambulance personnel always ask you details about how this collision happened. I don't think you need to provide too much to any of the medical providers. You should tell them I was in a motorcycle crash, I fell down, I landed on my right side, my hip is killing me. Just the necessary facts so that they can assess you. You don't want to give them all the details about who said what to whom and who did what to whom. Let me back up for a second. At the scene itself, almost every case, the police officer, the reporting officer gets one witness that backs up their theory of what happened, and they're in a hurry. You got to remember, they've closed down the freeway. There's one lane going through. It's rush hour, and they've got to clear the freeway. They've got to take your statement, take the other guy's statement, and find one witness to show what happened so that they can support what the officer thinks happened. You've got to make sure if anybody comes up to you and says, man, I saw it. That guy cut you off. I saw it. He bumped you. Get that person's card. Get him to put something in your phone. If you can't sit down and type on your phone, hand them your phone and say, put your number and your name in there, please. What you get at the scene, the contact information you get at the scene, may be the difference between winning and losing. Okay, let's back up for a second. Now we're in the hospital bed.
Right.
You're wondering, what do I do? What can I do now? The insurance company calls up and they say, well, we represent the guy that you're involved with, and we want your statement. You don't have to give them a statement. They will act as if you need to provide a statement, as if it's the law that you provide the statement, but you don't have to. Almost, I would say none of my cases do I ever allow my client to give the insurance company a statement after I have been retained.
Right.
The only time I do is if the insurance company will exchange the statement of their insured with me. I'll say, fine, we'll all sit down, we'll take everybody's statement, we'll do it in my office. You're welcome to come and you can record it. I have not had one insurance company in 35 years agree to do that. Well, no, I'm sorry. I've had two. And somehow something has always happened, so they've backed off. I don't give statements.
Right.
You don't need to give statements. And you certainly don't need to from your hospital bed. If somebody comes into your room, says, I'm an investigator for the insurance company or for the police, and for the officer who hit you, you don't have to give them a statement at that time. You can have your words, what you give to the other side, controlled through your attorney, because you want to make sure that your message is consistent, always the same, truthful, and winning.
What about my own insurance company and they contact me? I don't need to be worried what I say to them, right?
Well, sadly, it's not true at all. You really do have to be worried about what you say to them. For one reason is, if the person who hits you has inadequate insurance, then you're going to have to turn to your own company and make an underinsured claim. That means your carrier will step into the shoes of the guy that hit you. So this nice carrier that you have, to whom you gave a statement early on in the case, will now be the opposition down the road when it comes down to talking about real money. So give them what they require. And they do require often a recorded statement. You have to give it to them. If you've already retained counsel, have your counsel present with you so that they can help you during your statement. If you have not, only give the bare minimum, and like the statement to the police, just what helps you. You don't need to help the other side. Your insurance company, sadly, does not really care about you winning a claim or a case against the offending driver. They just don't. So you have to be very, very careful, even though they're going to be very, very friendly. And frankly, for most motorcycle cases, because the injuries are much more serious, you should have called an attorney by now, or had somebody in your family find an attorney. Find a real motorcycle attorney, somebody who really understands the dynamics of a motorcycle collision and what sets these collisions apart from your average car collision. If it's an advertising attorney who does a bunch of car accident cases, they may be fine, but again, they may be sadly lacking. You want somebody who really understands what happens in a motorcycle collision, what your choices were at the time the collision happened, and how you were doing the right thing and obeying the laws, even if some people don't think so.
And you want somebody, Claude, who's willing to go to trial if they need to, not just going to quickly take the first settlement that's offered, correct?
Well, we have a saying in our office, don't just grab the low-hanging fruit. The low-hanging fruit can be a small policy. It can even be a small policy plus you're underinsured. You always have to look for a more viable a candidate, a defendant who can pay, because your injuries are likely of a value far greater than a small policy. So don't just take what they're offering you because they tell you that's all there is. Even if that ends up being all there is, you need to do your due diligence, and you need a lawyer to really figure that out. Too many lawyers in our community just grab the easy money, charge a fee, and they're gone. I had a client just the other day who was run over in a crosswalk, and he said he interviewed 3 other lawyers before me, and they all told him, well, the guy who hit you has got a $50,000 policy. You've got 100 underinsured, so I'm pretty much going to get you the 100, and that's what we're going to work with. When I met him, I said, wow, your medical bills are $300,000. You can't take $100,000. I'll find out if there's any more. We worked on that case for 3 years. Our client was very patient, wonderful guy, and I can't say against whom because it's a confidential settlement, but we got him more than $1 million at the end of the day, and that is going to change this 23-year-old man's life. He's going to be able to afford to live in the Bay Area, despite the fact that he was run over in the crosswalk.
Wow. Claude, thank you so much for your time and helpful information today. I do appreciate it, as always.
Rob, I really enjoyed talking to you, and I really appreciate the chance to impart a few of these things on motorcyclists on the web.
Thanks very much. That's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. If you want the best information about motorcycle accident law, or you're ready to choose a lawyer that lawyers choose, be sure to visit askthelawyer.com. My guest today has been attorney Claude Wyle of the firm Choulos Choulos Wyle, based in San Francisco. Also, please take a moment and click on the button at the bottom of the screen so you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Rosenthal for AskTheLawyers.com.